the Jets are interviewing Mike Vrabel. Now, Vrabel was just to set the stage a little bit. Vrabel was helping out as a consultant for the Cleveland Browns this year, as he didn't get a head coaching job after he was fired from the Tennessee Titans. Vrabel is the hot name out there for the head coaching candidate. A lot of Jets fans are clamoring like, go get Vrabel. Vrabel's the guy. He's the CEO type. But before we talk about him as a candidate, Kaz, what did you make of the Jets are now interviewing him here at January 3rd, a couple days before they finish the actual regular season?
Yeah, I think this is why the Jets moved on from Joe Douglas when they did, right? So they would get everything ready to go and get a jump on things. So I think it's a good job by the Jets that they got him in here first. And there's two other teams with openings. So, why not? When I think when the news broke Monday that his contract with Cleveland was up as a consultant and he could interview her, it's all right. Let's see, if the Jets jump, and they did, and they got him in here quick. So I think it's a good job by the Jets to do that.
And, I think there's been a lot of discourse between fans wondering how the Jets are going about this process, because we've seen they've already interviewed some GM candidates. We got the news of Louis Riddick. We've got Thomas Dimitroff, John Robinson, and yet they're interviewing head coach candidates, not just Vrabel. Yeah. They interviewed Ron Rivera this week as well. How do you feel about this process they're going about interviewing both GM and head coaches at the same time?
I think people don't understand this, Ryan. They have to. They have to. They can't just wait, hire a GM. They've got to have the head coaching candidates interviewed. And so, Ron Rivera and Mike Vrabel are not employed by teams right now, so you can get a jump on them. I would imagine Rex Ryan is going to be interviewed next week. So that's another one that they can do in person. Now, the guys, the Ben Johnsons or the Liam Cohens or Aaron Glenn's of the world that are currently employed by teams, they can only talk to them next week virtually for 3 hours. So that's the limit, okay? Then they can't speak to them again until after the divisional round of the playoffs. So that's waiting another 2 weeks. So you can't go, okay, we're just going to take our time, hire a GM, and then we'll start interviewing coaches. You'll be so far behind the other teams. This doesn't mean they're hiring anyone right now. They're not. This process is going to take a while. I think, the GM candidates are different. They can interview in person next week. So even guys who are employed by teams can interview in person. So I think the GM hire could happen, within the next 2 weeks. I think the coaching hire is probably going to be closer to the Super Bowl, after the championship game, somewhere in that time frame would be my guess. So I don't know what people want them to do. You just want to let this sit around on their hands. This is good. This is what Washington is a process I've mentioned before. I go back to a lot because I feel it's similar because they're hiring both. They have Rick Spielman here, who was in Washington advising. Washington did their interviews with coaches first round, hired Adam Peters as the GM. He was in on the second round of interviews then for the head coaches, which I think that's what you do. They're recorded, so the GM can watch the interviews with all these guys. And then when they decide 2 or 3 weeks who they want for second interviews, the GM could be involved in that process. But I just don't get the criticism, from people right now. They're not hiring anyone. They're doing their due diligence on these guys.
I think it goes back to that structure, right? The GM should be, but you're already pointing out though, Kaz, they can watch back the recorded interviews, and even
they're not hiring anyone. They and by the way, Mike Vrabel, he's probably going to get hired before a GM anywhere he gets hired. Some pieces are going to have the GM in place, but if the Jets were to hire him, Mike Vrabel's going to want say on who the GM is. So he's the only guy I can really see in this process of being where that's the case, where he has the cachet where he's going to be involved in the GM hiring.
Kaz, let me ask you really quick. Do you think there's a likelihood that Mike Vrabel will be the Jets head coach? I know it's impossible to say, but if you had to make a prognostication on it, I know we had spoken on our past show about Vrabel's connection with Vegas. I mean, what do you think? What are you feeling with him at the Jets?
My feeling is unlikely, frankly. I don't think it's likely. Okay. I think, I'm not saying there's no chance, but I just feel like, there's a lot of hurdles to clear. Is he really going to want the Jets? I know people are reporting stuff, but what is he going to say right now? He's going to tell everyone he wants this because he's interviewing. And I think he's obviously going to have a lot of leverage wherever he goes. He's a hot candidate. So I think he's going to get interviewed basically for every opening, So to me, it's unlikely. I still think the Raiders, and now you're hearing a lot of rumblings about the Patriots possibly moving on. Would he go there? So I just I'm not sure he's going to want this place. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure this place is going to want to pay him what he wants to get paid, and also give him the power that he's probably going to want.